Welcome to the 27th episode of Impact Media Presents. I'm Kelly Redmond, your host and Executive Director of Impact Media and Entertainment Coalition. And today we have a very important topic for those who are in the entertainment industry. We're going to be talking about tax incentives for film financing. And today we have a very special guest. I'd like to introduce you to Roderick Wimberly. How are you, Roderick?
I am exceedingly blessed. How you doing, Kelly? Good to see you.
Doing great. It's good to see you. So I didn't say Rod. Can I call you Rod,
You certainly
or you want to be
can.
formal? Okay, okay. So when I met, well, not yeah, I guess officially met you. It was Brother Rod,
Right,
as
exactly.
you were Jada's Sunday school teacher,
So long ago now.
almost
She's
16 years ago.
right when I was 8, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, when you were about eight-ish, that was my first introduction to you. How old were you when you played Martin Luther on the Marva Collins
Martin Luther Jones.
story?
I was 10. I was 10 years
Wow,
old, and
that
that
story
yeah, that
changed
was that
my
was
life.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that was awesome. That was I met. That's when I first worked with Cicely Tyson, Morgan Freeman. That was one of his early roles. So
Yes.
I'm like a trivia question. I could say I've been in a movie with Morgan Freeman. So
And
that's
what Leslie Uggams played.
well, there was a couple of others that were involved in some other projects. So the Go Tell It on Mountain Teleplay. There was a lot of people. It was directed by Stan Lathan, and so there was other people. Well, Melba Moore was in another film.
Right. But
So
for the Marva Collins story, wasn't that Leslie Uggams that played?
no,
Mar-
so we had Cicely Tyson, Morgan Freeman, um, Marshall Warfield was in it,
Okay.
uh, Charlie Brown was in it, um, and I'm trying to remember some of the others that came,
Okay, I was trying to
came about.
remember who actually played Marva. I thought it was Leslie
It was Cicely
Uggams.
Tyson.
It was Cicely
Yeah, it
Tyson.
was Cicely.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah,
don't know
she's been
what.
around for a while. Yeah, she's still
Yeah,
moving.
and the interesting thing is, I was so much younger, but yeah, anyway, that 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 film, that made for TV film changed my life. And it really is the premise for which Impact Media was founded,
Oh, that's
because
fantastic.
I saw the power of how the platform of media and entertainment could really have a positive impact, because it inspired, even though I had a lot of positive reinforcement all around me from my parents and family. That movie showed me the power of what one human being, could do when you're determined to change a system or change an outcome, for an individual or a community. And it's really, I reference it all the time. And it's one of the models that I base the programming and the content that we're working on off of,
That,
because
that,
change can happen and you can inspire change by sharing our real stories, our true
Absolutely,
stories.
absolutely. That's wonderful. It's a blessing to be able to have made an impact in any small way. And what you're doing is great. I think I'm very proud, for lack of a better term, of what you're doing.
Thank
And that's
you.
one of the reasons why I'm on is because we have a like mind in terms of trying to uplift the community and to see what we can do to change things, make things better. And so hopefully that's what we're going to be able to do
Oh,
through
we're
this
going to do. It's
program.
already happening. It's
That's right.
already happening. And this live stream and this concept for what we're talking about today, you planted the seed. It was at least 5 years ago when Impact hosted a Kwanzaa event around cooperative economics in Ujama. And you were sharing that this was an avenue to support, you know, collective investing for Black film projects, which you knew was important to me and what we wanted to focus on. And that's when you first introduced me to this tax incentive. And so thank you for reaching out to tell me about the changes in the tax law so that we could go on and share with, the Black film community what's happening and how we can, one, learn the difference, and then determine how, we can maximize, the opportunities for our projects and those who are interested in investing in our projects, and seek investors for the project. So tell me a
Absolutely.
little bit about why you do this work and why this is important to you.
It's important to me for many different reasons. One of the things you just talked about, especially right now. So right now is kind of like a watershed moment, I think, in Hollywood, for us in Black Hollywood, I suppose. I'm in Chicago, but
Mhm.
the changes that are happening right now probably are unprecedented and allow for us to kind of do things that I think we haven't been able to do. And so one of the main things we really should be doing and focusing on is changing the entire paradigm on how our stories are told and what stories are told
Absolutely.
about us. And
Yes.
I think right now, some of the major hurdles that have been, I said before us, are somewhat coming down. I think the stories, mainstream society is more willing to, listen to the stories that we tell about our own. And
Yes.
so, I think what we need to do is really focus on uh, redefining how we are projected in media. And and so there has been a serious problem in terms of what images have been projected from
Yes.
the very inception of the movie industry. Um, and so right now, there's a project that I'm contemplating speaking with someone about that very issue going back as far as the inception of Hollywood, the caricature that they've presented of us in terms of
Yes.
socializing other, even immigrants, to learn racist tendencies because of the
Yes.
images that were portrayed about us. So,
Yes.
so on the one hand, it's a great aspect for Black business owners and investors, but the corollary to that is that it allows us to really take much more control over the stories that we tell and how we tell them.
Yes.
So that's really important to me because and I'll wind this up. We don't want to have to put another Judd Nelson in like New Jack City. You know what I mean? Like that was a studio thing that said you have to have a white person in here, and so that's what you'll get. So hopefully, what this can do is it can be used to allow for more of us to be able to tell the stories that we need, and that will uplift us and be more encouraging, like the Marvel Collins story was to you.
Absolutely. And as you know, for all of those reasons that you just mentioned, is exactly why I moved from Chicago to Los Angeles to start Impact Media and Entertainment Coalition. And it's not just about, even though I have tons of stories that I want to tell, some of my own personal stories and some of my mentors like CT Vivian and others, but it's about supporting the collective and how do we work together. And I literally just found out through um, a partner how we can set up an actual name fund that has very um, low fees and no fees to set up a named entertainment fund. So we're in the process of doing it. And in order to do that, we need about $250,000 to start that. So I'm really interested in learning how we can take the opportunity that we have with, this partner, along with the tax incentives that you're going to share today, and really kind of get moving with kicking it off. So tell us about what you've learned and how it's going to benefit uh, the Black entertainment community specifically.
Sure. You know what? I honestly I can't even remember how I got into it, but I believe my memory is that I kind of stumbled across it. I was doing some work and doing some research on some things. By way of background, my background is professionally I'm an attorney, and as you said, I was a child actor for about 8 years, and after that I went to school because I always wanted to be an attorney. But I always had people and friends that were involved in it, and a friend of mine who was an actor with me, who's older than me, went to like film school, and after he finished, he said, "Hey, man, I want to get you back involved in this." And so I got involved on the production side. So we were doing
Hmm.
small, short movies and music videos and things back then. And so now, I when focused on my practice and everything, but Now I really think that it was time to kind of regenerate this. And so I happened to come across this, and when I found out about it, to me it kind of was like it was too good to be true, almost. Like
Hmm.
I was like, no, this can't be. There's got to be something else to this, because it seemed like it was such a great advantage that I had never heard of. And when I started talking to people about it, they literally had no idea what I was talking about. And I'll say this: well, I went to one film. It was like a film festival,
Hmm.
and I there was like 4 or 5. It was like a producers panel, and some fairly well known producers. And I asked a question related to Section 181, which is what I'll
Hmm.
talk about in a second.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like crickets. They had no, even these professionals, these producers, they had no idea what I was talking about. And I said, oh my God,
Mm.
we have to share this.
Absolutely.
So there's two aspects to it. One is there was a project. It was a tax incentive under the Internal Revenue Code called Section 181, and it offered tax incentives for qualified investors in qualifying film, TV, and even now live theatrical productions.
Okay.
And so there's qualifications for that, only up to a certain amount of productions. If you are doing a live theatrical production, 75% of the production has to be produced in the United States or its territories. So that kind of means, you have to hire Americans, and you have to film it in the United States. The
Hmm.
reason why is because it started in 2004 as a result to what they call those runaway productions, when all these production companies were going to film in like Canada. And
Yes.
so there was a lot of revenue that was lost. So this was kind of an attempt to reinvest in the American film. And so
Hmm.
the amazing thing about it was that it allowed for investment to any investment that was 100% tax deductible for the investor when the expense is incurred. So that means more or less that when you spent the funds, let's say I wanted to start a production, I've got a screenplay, I go into production, I start expensing these productions. The investors in under Section 181 would then be able to, after they invested in the project, to receive even 100% of their investment if they passive, from passive investment that they made in the film, unless they were part of the film itself. So let's say they were a writer or they came up with a story or something, then they would be able, even personally, to be able to take a 100% tax deduction
Mm.
from their taxes, regardless of whether or not the project was distributed. So the very
That's
fact,
right.
which is amazing, right? So
Yeah.
you can try to get a deal, and that's what us producers are doing, right? I have a film production company, so we try to get deals, and you try to get investors and the like. And so what this does is it effectively significantly reduces your tax liability, because whether the film makes money, whether it's not even distributed, you used to be able to get you would get the write-off as long as you set it up properly. The production company would issue you a tax form that you would then present to your accountant to offset taxes, and you could float it out there for up to 38 years, or even retroactively use it for 2 years if, let's say, you owe
Wow.
taxes. Rather than paying the government, let's say you owed $100,000 in taxes, you're a baller, right? Um,
Right.
Rather than paying the government $100,000, you could invest that $100,000 in a qualifying Section 181 project, and you would be able to get a write-off for it. And so that significantly reduce your risk. And so when I found out about that, then I started saying, hey, we need to, talk to as many Black investors and Black production companies and producers to let them know this, because um, it's always very hard trying to get money, investors from, to get involved, because it's such a risky investment traditionally. And this
Yes.
significantly reduced, that risk, but it also allowed for you to create a much more conducive environment for much better stories, um, case in point, now is a flashpoint where you have a lot of other, let's say we have like the Fred Hampton story come out. You have Harriet that came out. Before those, before this most recent kind of turn of events in Hollywood, it was very hard to try to get any, historical stories that were somewhat accurate to theaters, because the pejorative idea was that Black people didn't like anything other than comedies, urban dramas, you know what I mean? And so they didn't ever really fund love stories by Black people. They didn't want to do anything because according to them, they didn't make enough money, or do something controversial, or like Nat Turner or Harriet or Black Panthers or something like that. So hopefully what will happen is, in addition to allowing for African Americans and others to really take advantage of some of these tax breaks that other people and production companies in Hollywood have been using since they started in 2004, I really wanted to make sure that people were aware of that and was able to maybe broaden their investment horizons and invest in something that you'd actually see the manifestation of it and be proud of, rather than like a ticker tape that you would have from stocks.
Yes.
So that was the primary motivation for it.
Well, that, I actually forgot how strong the benefits were when you initially told me about this so many years ago. Wow. And so how has it changed? How has the tax law changed?
Right. So, and this is another reason why I was kind of banging the drum, because the current Section 181 will die on December 31st. Now, in the past, it's died and been resurrected. So it's as good as Jesus, right? So it's resurrected like 3 or 4 times since it was initially given. And so, but this time, people believe strongly in that it's going to be dead and not resurrected, because it's somewhat been replaced by another tax methodology, which is known as bonus depreciation, and that's under a different Section 168. So the major differences between the two are, and one is kind of a benefit. So one benefit is Section 181 was limited. It had a budgetary cap. So it could only be productions that were $15 million or $20 billion if they were filmed in what the federal government identifies as a disadvantaged area. Section 168 kind of removed that. So that is, so if you have 100 million, if you're really doing it and, you have $100 million, you can use bonus depreciation in order to, give yourself, some of the same benefits. The biggest problem, though, and the biggest difference is that under Section 168, the property must be acquired and placed into service within that time frame. And so what that means is that you would have to have a distribution deal or some way to be able to broadcast it. And so that's the biggest difference between Section 181 and 168. Section 181 only deals with the expenses when they are incurred and not when the product is placed into service. So the 168 requires basically a distribution deal, for lack of a better term. But you could probably, I don't know, maybe get around that. There's ways to probably do that by, if you rented out theater yourself and you broadcasted, you had a screening, you had people come and see it. That could technically, I believe, under the IRS rules, allow for it to be "quote unquote" placed into service. And so I don't want to get that technical, because I think people will fall asleep on it. But
yeah, it sounds like we need another workshop.
Yeah,
like we need a full, blown Zoom workshop or something. And that's why I just flashed my contact information, and I'm going to make sure that before you close, you'll share yours, and then we'll definitely coordinate and see if we can set something up to have have you come back to talk about, Section 181 and 168 in a more, detailed format. It's unfortunate due to the COVID environment that, there's not much that can happen with production, live productions.
Right. Right.
There's not much filming or, live productions happening because of the need to social distance, et cetera. But I
Right.
guess if there's some one-man productions, one-woman shows, that this may be your opportunity to
Right. It was
move
funny
forward.
because there was a lot of people. I was in, in some filmmaking groups, and right when the shutdowns were happening, around the country, people were saying, "Well, if you ever have an apocalyptic movie, you better go out and get your exteriors because literally
Right.
there was no one on downtown Chicago, no
Exactly.
one in down, in Manhattan, on the streets. You could get all the
LA
footage you wanted."
freeways were wide
Right.
open.
Yeah, the 290 and Chicago Interstate, nobody was on the roads. You could walk out there and have a picnic. But a lot of people have kind of taken that. Like what I did was I had a documentary that was kind of sitting on the shelf, and so what I did was use that time to go back and say, all right, let's finish this documentary. And so in order for us to do that, we had to be very stringent in complying with the CDC guidelines, social distancing, mask, all that.
Yes.
And so some people are really, I know that Tyler Perry has put out this 30-page manual about how to safely and effectively run a production during COVID. But this has changed, and it's going to be
Yes.
around for a while until I suppose there's a vaccine
Yes.
that's not that's proven,
Effective.
not like Russia or anything else.
Right.
So,
Right.
so we'll see. But it has made. I mean, it's changed everything.
It has.
Everybody
It
wear your
really has.
mask.
Right. So before you give your closing comments, let's talk about how, you know, our community, the Black community, can use this information to impact the creation and increase, the creation of getting, our films financed and, the different types of stories that we've been talking about today, ensuring that those are in really, that all uh, are interested in telling because there's definitely a lot of fullness and breadth and range and as it relates to our community it's extremely diverse and we these stories deserve to be told. So from your vantage point, how do these incentives uh, help to ensure that that happens and how can we maximize these opportunities until December 31st
Right.
and then beyond. And then, you can tell me, I talked about some Zoom trainings, tell me what you think could be some of the best formats to ensure that this education at the right level goes forward. Because are there any other entities that are conducting this type of education that you know of?
Um, in the Black filmmaking community, I don't think so. I've kind of looked around and talked to other filmmakers, and I think one of the major problems is when you start talking about because some of these are very technical, and these are some stuff that I don't deal with because they're accountant, they're tax accountant questions and issues that I'm not an expert in, and so I have an accountant as well, but the idea is that we should really kind of spread it out because I didn't see anyone talking to our
Mhm.
community about it, and there are people in the African American Black community and even of other races. I won't say minorities,
Yeah,
but
I don't use that word.
Native Americans, the Latin community.
People of color.
Right, all
Mhm.
people of color. There's stories, there are very rich stories that can be told, and there
Absolutely.
are investors that are looking for viable investment vehicles. As we see, there's so many things that have been going on. It's almost to the point where using some of these vehicles, investing in film would even be safer than the stock market
Yes.
has been going up and down and up and down and up and down. It's just it's really problematic to see that. But I guess the silver lining would be that you could allow for and maybe spur more African Americans, other people of color, to consider investing
Yes.
in film to really have a societal difference around the world. And
Yes.
the way media is one of the greatest entrenched institutions. It
Yes.
is how you can train the thinking of people. It's how you can
That's why
show
they call it
socially.
programming.
Exactly, exactly, right. And it
Yes.
should, it helps to shape and form the culture, right? And
Yes.
so I don't think that we are really looking at how we can shape the culture through mass communications and media by making sure that the stories that we tell and the stories that are told about us more accurately reflect our experience.
Well,
And
that's what the mission is of Impact Media. And
there
so
you
we
go.
definitely need to talk about more how we can partner. I know you're a part of a number of film groups. I'm a part of some and other, entities in the media and entertainment space. And, we've been beating the drum, out here in LA and across the country about this. And it's our time. If nothing else, this pandemic has demonstrated, both global pandemics have demonstrated the importance and relevance of the platforms of media entertainment right now. And it was so drastically on display so quickly when we were forced into quarantine and everyone turned to their platforms and quickly ran out of content that they were interested in.
That's right.
And that,
That's absolutely right.
so there's a huge void and a huge opportunity, and people are really beginning to get it and to get how important it is. It was unfortunate that those who got it initially before the pandemic, pre-pandemic, they're the ones who wanted to block the type of programming that we're talking about because they know how powerful it is. They know that if we use this medium for social change and inspiring and uplifting people and organizing and the work that can be done through social action and using these platforms and using it to educate that whole there's a whole movement around edutainment.
Right.
um,
Right.
they knew how powerful it was, so they didn't want to fund us to do this work. They
Of
didn't,
course.
whether, as a nonprofit, I was actually competing for fellowships and funding to get support to do this work, and they would fund white people to do this work for the Black community, and
Well,
it was
right. It's
angering and
yeah, it's
frustrating.
part of that same paternalistic idea that which is also kind of reinforced and pushed through media channels about how we can't more or less govern ourselves, right?
Right.
One of the funny things that I kind of remember, I remember way back when the movie Boomerang came out. You remember
Hmm.
with Eddie Murphy, and he was the head of this
Oh yeah.
this
Classic.
advertising agency. I remember
Hmm.
one of the criticisms that he even talked about was in the reviews that they were saying, "Oh, it's just so unrealistic." More or less that they could run an ad agency, a global ad agency. I mean, where the white people more or less to run the office. You know what I mean? And it was just like
Mm.
that's like a pervasive thing that that's still with us today. And to their credit, there is a lot of people. I know millennials have been much maligned, but this is a time right now where people of all races and ethnicities are really looking at our culture and saying, this ain't right. And they're not
Right.
taking no for an answer. Like they're like, okay, they're not taking no. I've been participating in all these, and my wife, we've been going to all these marches, and they're literally like 75% non-black people out there. Black
Yes.
Lives Matter, and so that's one of the reasons why I think at this time this is a watershed moment. We don't have time to just let
Absolutely.
it pass us by because that window is going to be open and shut as quickly as they could get it.
Absolutely.
So we have to take charge of this. We have to make sure that that we are in control of our stories. And really, the ultimate thing that I'm praying that we will ultimately do is to actually have a truly black distribution studio where we can green light and distribute our own movies. I
Absolutely.
mean, Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and David Geffen did that. That's what DreamWorks SKG is. It's just three
Hmm.
people said we're going to do this. We have enough black billionaires to get it done. So
Yes,
we
we
won't have
do.
to go hat in hand begging to distribution houses saying, "Well, you please distribute my movie." We
Right.
can do it on our own. And so I think ultimately we have the resources. The question is, do we have the will? Do we have the political will and the courage to make it happen? And
Yes.
that's where all of us come in to say, listen, we will support you. We are here. And if we build a large enough black investor pipeline for films, then we can do that. And people of color. I think that's really what we have to shoot for.
Absolutely, Rod. And I just thank you so much. So what I'm going to challenge all the viewers, because I've shared this just before we went live in a lot of Black filmmaker groups, writers group. I mean, just every aspect of the entertainment industry. And I challenge you. You see the email and the phone number on the screen. Reach out to me if you're really serious about learning more, creating that collective cooperative economics that we spoke of around film financing or entertainment content, uh, creating content and ensuring that it gets, distributed. Let's continue to form some partnerships and coalitions around this. And through my nonprofit and partnering with other groups and entities, partnering with you, Rod, and others, there's a lot that we can do. And it's definitely, the time is now, as you said. It is a watershed moment. And shame on us if we don't take advantage of it. So
That's exactly true. I mean,
yeah,
it's on us. It's our issue, and we have to go out there. I was once saying, well, other people shouldn't be out Black Lives Mattering us, and not necessarily
exactly.
the I'm not saying just the political organization, but what I'm saying is that others shouldn't be more fervent in advancing the causes of us than us. And so, but I'm very excited about what I see from, like I said, the younger generation, and they're teaching us a thing or two right now. I said, no,
Absolutely.
we need to change this, and we can't be complacent about it.
Absolutely. But here's the thing, Rod, we've been doing it for hundreds of years. It's their turn, it's their time. And we know at the end of the day, white people listen to white people. And I say that as someone who had a white father. you know, there are certain messages and certain water we just can't carry to certain people. And it was really time for others to take up our banner and say enough is enough. And I'm grateful that they did. And
Right.
so, we are still out there, and I believe we're actually doing more, because the protesting is one aspect of it. But now, you know, more of us are able to be, at the table and doing the strategic negotiations that are required in order to really advance systemic change. And a lot of that is happening. So, we've paid our dues out in the streets, and now it's time for us to be, at the table, in the boardrooms, behind, the scenes, in the C-suite, demanding and directing, where the resources go in order to affect the change that needs to happen for our people.
That's
And it's
right.
happening.
and
It's
and, and
happening.
standing with each other and making sure that we are
Exactly.
creating coalitions and getting to know others and working with each other.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that I think that will help. In terms of some of these incentives to build, investment groups, allow for synergy between, African Americans and other professionals to bring to the fore. Like one of the things was trying to bridge the gap of the entertainment industries of Black Hollywood and African film, Nollywood,
Absolutely.
which is the second
Yes.
largest film media market in the world. It's
Yes.
larger than Hollywood now, and
Oh
and
yeah,
so
there's some of my favorite films on Netflix.
yeah, I mean, and so what we have to do is, we
They're
have to
telling more
touch
of the
things.
love stories than we do.
Right, exactly.
A lot of love and relationships. Yeah.
So hopefully, that will spur us to do more and supporting. Because honestly, the reason why they don't make a lot is because we don't support them. We don't support Black love stories. We don't support love, like you see the Notebook and some other stuff. You just the numbers of them. Maybe it's a casting issue in some of them, but
I
the other stuff,
believe that we do, and I believe that more are becoming available,
mhm.
and it's happening. I mean, part of it is, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But
Right. That's
yes,
that's a whole
I
nother
believe we
another
gotta
subject.
we gotta support those who are willing to make them, and then
Right.
ensure we use our platforms to support them, because a
Absolutely.
lot of times they don't necessarily have the marketing budgets that are necessary, and they don't have the social media support. And don't get me off about talking about
Right.
how we use our platforms to talk
Yeah. Yeah.
about and support our opposition more so than what we support. But if we took advantage of using our voice and our platforms to support what we support, we'd be better off as a community. So we're going to ask that everyone be mindful of that, moving forward, especially as it relates to our media and entertainment choices, because now
Absolutely.
everybody's looking for. So
Absolutely.
share what you're watching that you enjoy, and especially if it was created by Black people, about Black people, by Black people. We've got to do that for each other, no matter if it was a hugely finance project, or if it was a small independent one. um, there's value in all of them. And I'm so grateful. And I thank all of the content creators that are out there that are Black, and telling our stories, and, doing, the great work of sh- really demonstrating who we are as a people, and not just limiting us to the stereotypes that are perpetuated, that continue to keep us divided as a people.
Exactly.
So thank you. And if you're interested, please stay in touch. Rod, what would you like to, how can people reach you? And then we'll close out.
You can reach me. I will actually give my personal email.
Yes.
It's RF Wimberly, so it's my initials R for Roderick, F as in Frank, and Wimberly. So it's RF Wimberly at Gmail. The You can send a message to my law office, which is info at Lakeshore East Law Group. That's one word.com. And I'm on the
They can
social
contact me, and
platform.
I'll connect too. That was
Sure.
one of the
Yeah.
reasons I shared that as well.
Right.
So
So I'm
if there
on
are any way
Facebook and LinkedIn and all those things, under my name, and so you can look me up. But I really I'm so happy to be able to share that with
I
you,
am
privileged to be on
too.
with you, Kelly, and you're doing amazing things. I just want to encourage you to continue to do that, and I think all of us. I also want to encourage every single person that is watching this, or that it might be shared to, that we do have a role to play, and we can make this difference. So
Yes.
let's get out there and do everything that we can in our sphere and our lane to change all of this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward, because we have a whole lot more to discuss, and a
Yes,
whole
we do.
lot more
So
planning to do. So we're
absolutely.
gonna we're gonna connect real soon.
All right. God bless you. God bless
God
everyone.
bless you too.
All right.
Thank
Take care now.
you. Wow, what an incredible opportunity to connect with the old friend who also is committed to this work. And I can vouch, this, as you can tell, this brother is sharp, he is talented, he is resourceful. And, if you're interested, let's continue to talk and kind of pull together to see what we can do to support each other in this industry. So thank you again for joining us on Impact Media Presents. Please like our page, The Positive Impact Campaign. And next week, we will be featuring the Black women leaders of LA. We're going to feature three Black women who are leading nonprofits in Los Angeles. And then the month of August is our month. It's Impact Month. It is the month that we were founded. Both my for-profit Impact Enterprises, which we will have a major announcement on our anniversary date, August 24th, along with Impact Media and Entertainment Coalition, our nonprofit division. So we are planning a special uh, birthday party. It's actually also my birthday, which is August 24th. My birthday, we're going to do a fundraiser kind of celebration party, And DJ Vince Adams out of Chicago is our DJ who's going to help us kind of and make some announcements, help us celebrate and announce some future activities that we're going to be doing real soon. So stay tuned for that. Also, later in this month, we're planning to have uh, the fourth segment of Where Do We Go From Here, this time featuring our national Black women leaders. So stay tuned for that, among other special guests and supporters of Impact Media, from the C-suite to celebrities to family and friends who have just been so supportive of us these past 7 years. And we are grateful for you. We want to say thank you for who you are and all that you've done to get us to this point. And, the best is yet to come. So thank you. Stay tuned. And again, God bless.